You know, for a race that records riders' times down to hundredths of a second, the Tour has a pretty loose idea of what constitutes a week. The first week of this year's race was actually 10 days, extended to accommodate Bastille Day, and as a result, the second was only 5, although the compression seems to have forced everything upwards. It might have been short, but it was steep. We start the rest day show with a recap of 3 big stages in the Pyrenees and a stage either side.
The day after the rest day, and Toulouse provided the start and finish line to a stage that exploded from the flag drop.
The Tour has no mercy for nobody. Come on, boys.
A 5-man breakaway eventually snapped the elastic. And they were followed by another turbocharged 5-man group. Up ahead, 5 became 2 as Uno X Mobility's Johannes Abrahamsen and Jaco Alula's Mauro Schmidt broke free. Behind them, on the almost vertical Pech David, it was the Flying Dutchman who lit the afterburners.
Van der Poel, his patience has snapped and he's off in pursuit of Fred Wright, who is in a world of pain. And all of a sudden, from the back of that group, he is now the 3rd place rider on the road and going clear. Pogacar, down on the ground, the world champion.
The final run-in brought huge drama and intrigue as the rainbow jersey crashed. The Shimano mechanic showed F1 pit stop speed in getting Pogacar back on track. But in the end, the peloton sat up anyway.
I repeat, we do not pull, After crash of somebody, we do not pull.
Tadej Pogacar's going to get back on there. They have slowed up. He's been gifted that.
There was no letting up, though, in the race for stage runners.
And there comes Mathieu van der Poel, the marauding man in grey. Now he can see them.
As he is now the hunter rather than the hunted.
But Abrahamsen and Schmidt, they dare not ease up. Van der Poel comes charging round that corner. Now he goes then, Schmidt leading from the front, Abrahamsen trying to get back on terms, Jonas Abrahamsen, Mauro Schmidt, it's close! Schmidt just about, but out on the line! That was so close, I don't know who won that. Abrahamsen, by the looks of it, has got the win!
A wild day and a huge moment for the Norwegian wildcards. Appropriate that the first man on the scene was Thor Hushovd. A roar that the god of thunder would surely have approved of. And speaking of approval...
All good today, all good. All good, all good. Respect to the mouth. Respect to everyone. Thank you.
Before the start of stage 12 in Osh, there was a moment of silence to remember 19-year-old Samuel Privitera, who tragically lost his life after crashing in the Giro della Valle d'Aosta. The peloton also remembered local hero and former Team Sky DS, Nicolas Portal. On a hot day in the Pyrenees, the pace once again was frenetic, with almost 52 kilometers covered in the first hour as a 50-man breakaway put the hammer down. If Visma Lease bike were planning something on the Cat 1 Col du Soulor, it never materialized. Local boy Bruno Amaray led the race onto the famed Autocamp, where another chapter of Tour history was about to be written.
Vingegaard watches that white jersey fly away from him. The rainbow bands on the Autocamp is destroying the opposition.
12 kilometers from the summit.
The vultures were circling as the gap grew ever wider.
The head dropping, the shoulders tense. Jonas Vingegaard, who is in just a world of hurt and pain.
Behind Jonas, Florian Lipowitz was riding himself onto a possible podium, particularly as Remco Evenepoel was showing signs of flagging. But this climb was all about one man, and one man only.
This is a huge stride towards win number 4 at the Tour de France. Vingegaard being put to the sword by Tadej Pogacar. Victory number 20 at the Tour de France. And Jonas Vingegaard, well, his hopes are fading and fading fast.
Last rider over the line some 44 minutes later was Brian Coquard, whose Tour travails continued. A broken finger whilst reaching for a musette, the latest in a litany of woes for the French sprinter. Day 2 in the Pyrenees, and the second ITT of the Tour, although this was a time trial unlike any other. Just 11 kilometres, but all the way up to the outer port at Périgueux. Luke Plapp went full throttle early on to take possession of the hot seat. Others were more crab-like on their approach to the finish. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe's Primož Roglic has been operating in stealth mode all tour, but on this day he reminded everyone that he still has a mighty engine.
Roglic has flown and is in first place by 30 seconds.
While Oscar Onni's magnificent 7th place was yet more evidence that the sky is the limit for this flying Scot. Jonas Vingegaard was able to banish the ghost of the first time trial, and indeed the previous day, as he put in another stellar ride.
Jonas Vingegaard gets to his 2-minute man, comes off his wheel, goes past him, and that's so humbling for Remco Evenepoel. Jonas Vingegaard's done a brilliant ride there, and he's the fastest on the line for now, 44 seconds faster than Primož Roglic.
But once again, this was all about the last rider off the start ramp. No TT bike, no race radio, just one man in the form of his life.
He really is the 21st century cannibal. This man is doing what Merckx has done almost half a century ago, and he's doing it with insolent ease. The individual time trial, he crushes the life out of it.
Day 3 in the Pyrenees, which would feature 3 of the race's iconic climbs before finishing on the summit of Luchon Super Bagnères. But number 3 on the GC wouldn't even manage to crest the first of them, as the crown prince of Belgian cycling sadly climbed off his bike on this Queen stage.
He doesn't want the camera, he doesn't want any eavesdropping. I'd be very surprised if he makes it to the top of the Tourmalet. Bitter disappointment for Remco Evenepoel.
Joining Remco on the list of abandons was Lidl-Trek's Mateusz Skelmos, who suffered a horror crash from which no amount of bandages could save him. As they entered the mist, once again it was Lenny Martinez who was on the hunt for polka dots, and he claimed maximum points over the Col du Tourmalet and the Col d'Aspin.
Well, he's collecting all the Pyrenean top trumps today, the Tourmalet, the Col d'Aspin, and next it's the Col de Peyresourde.
But on the penultimate climb of the day, the Col de Peyresourde, it was Ineos Grenadiers Dutchman, Tiemann Arendsman, seeking to make possible his mission impossible.
Arendsman the first to launch off this group. Tiemann Arendsman goes over the Col de Peyresourde and should take a lead onto the final climb of the day, Super Bagnères.
Vingegaard's in full flight. He wants to bring back Arendsman. He wants to have the option of going for the stage win.
It's Tiemann Arendsman who rides to the biggest win of his career, and one that he deserves and that he created with an astonishing attack.
The final day before the second rest day was a classic transition stage, as the peloton left the Pyrenees and headed to Carcassonne.
The Belgian national champion Tim Wellens has launched a long way out.
How is he looking? How looks Tim? Now you should reply, he looks fabulous.
It was a powerful breakaway. Tim Wellens followed the wheels when it first got established, and he was wily, he was clever, he was shrewd, he was tactically completely on point. Wellens has crushed stage 15 in the Tour.
Another win for UAE Team Emirates, and second place for Visma Leasebike. But this time, it was the lieutenants rather than the leaders. And spare a thought for Julian Alaphilippe. Victim of a crash earlier in the day, he fought all the way back to lead the third group over the line. not realising that the two Belgians had already finished ahead of him.
I did it on Liège-Bastogne-Liège, now I did on the Tour, so it's part of the game.
For Pogacar though, yet another reason to smile.